Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. Renfail here, back for another EverQuest 2 video, and welcome to the new series. This is a tutorial series set up for new players, which might sound weird. We're in 2023, the game is coming up on 20 years of being released, and a lot of people are like, what do you mean, why are you covering a 20-year-old game? Well, surprisingly, I get a lot of comments from people that they've never played this game before. They were too busy when it came out. They've never tried one of the TLEs or TLPs. They thought that it was a group-based game and they weren't going to be able to do anything by themselves. People like my wife who just never got into gaming until later on in life. There are actually quite a few people who are new to gaming or new to EverQuest and EverQuest 2 in general. So that's what this game series is geared towards. So if you've watched the first video I did over here, I did a guide for the new players' starting areas for the good side, and we chose the Frostfang Sea or New Hallis area for my Wood Elf Ranger here, and we're going to be going through and playing through these islands and the Frostfang Sea area in a series of tutorials aimed at helping new folks get into the game for the first time and go from there. So today we're going to be talking about a handful of things in this tutorial guide and going from there. But before we get going, I have to say, hey, I'm on the free-to-play. Don't forget, you can go free-to-play or VIP. It's going to remind you if you're free-to-play. Don't forget to VIP. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, folks. Don't forget to check out all the other playlists here on the channel. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So the first tip I'm going to give you isn't actually an in-game tip. It is an out-of-game tip. I'm going to highly recommend that you go download something called EQ2 Maps. EQ2 Maps is a great tool that downloads all of the maps in the game with all of these POIs on them. Now, the reason I suggest this, some people aren't going to want this. Some people are going to want to get lost. They're going to want to have a map that's completely clean. They don't want anything on it, and they just want to be able to run around and explore things at their leisure and find things for themselves. The reason I like it is because I've played the game a bunch over the years, and I don't necessarily want to spend my time trying to find things. I find more enjoyment in the completion of things and the reading of text and the listening to voice acting and the story. So for me, exploration is all well and good, but getting lost is not something I'm a big fan of. It is a free tool, the EQ2 Maps feature. There's instructions on their website, and I will put the links down in the description below. But basically, it's a tool that you download. You then just click the patch button. It's going to automatically detect where your installation is, and it's going to install the map packs to your installation folder. And then when you log into the game, instead of having a map that is devoid of POIs, you're going to have a map that looks like this. You're going to have all these POIs located so you can find ground spawn and harvesting nodes and NPCs and things that you need for quests. This is an invaluable tool for finding your way around the game and being able to quickly and easily get to the places that you need to get to in order to complete quests. And I think it's just one of those tools that is a must-have for anyone who has never played the game before. Alright, next up is going to be Hotbar Management, because one thing EverQuest 2 is known for among veterans is the fact that it has a hugely overwhelming amount of skill bloat, which means you will be getting dozens of abilities, and a lot of them you just won't use, but some of them, I would say many of them, are situational, and so you'll want to have them at your hotbar, on your hotbars at some point. But the way they start you off in the game, it's not readily evident how to get more hotbars or how the hotbars work. So one of the first things you need to understand is that when you first start the game, you're only going to have one hotbar down here, and it's going to be this main one on the bottom. If you want to open up a new hotbar, you simply right-click, open up a new hotbar, and it's going to spawn one above it. Now, I could choose to do this again, and you'll see what happens. Open new hotbar, boom, and it opened up a new one up top. Now, the next thing you need to do, because they don't explain this to you, is when you first do something out of the gate, like if I were to drag this up here into this hotbar, I can no longer left-click and drag. Why not? It says on the left hand in the text window, you'll see where it says cannot drag the hotbar. Use the hotbar context menu to enable it. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that the hotbar is locked. So you'll want to go down here, right click, bring up this contextual menu again, go to the hotbar settings. Then there's going to be this button here where it says allow draggable icons. Make sure that that is turned on so that you can now left click and drag the abilities where you want them on the hotbar. Now, if you've got a hotbar full and you're happy with the placement of everything, you can go ahead and go back in here, go into your hotbar settings, turn that back off so that you can no longer drag things around and go from there. You can also right click and close hotbars as you want, and of course these can be moved anywhere you want, assuming that the window is not locked. You could choose to lock the window through the context menu, which locks it in place, but from here you can drag these windows around wherever you see fit, like so. Now the other thing to pay attention to is that not only can you drag these UI elements around, you can also come in here and resize them so that they're vertical. Or if you want them to be too wide, they can be 2 wide, or they can be 3 wide, so on and so forth. You can choose to have any of these hotbars, you can put them wherever you want, have them be laid out any way you want, and you can also resize them. If you go into the, I believe it's the, I'm going to double check this here, it might be the hotbar settings. Yeah, icon size. So you can choose, I mean, they're 42 at this point. You can also choose to resize them however you would want. Let's go back to that, 42. And so there's all these different things you can do with the hotbars. So don't be afraid to play around with them, because the setup that I use might not be the setup that you want. So bear that in mind. The big thing is that understanding that when you first get into the game, you only have one hotbar, and as people start to get lots of abilities, they're like, wait a minute, how do I get more? Right click, open new hotbar, and then remember that in order to make the icons draggable, you need to go to the hotbar settings and click the draggable icons. That's a huge thing out of the gate that a lot of people don't know, so keep that in mind. You know, I should actually probably call this video the top 5 tips for new players. Maybe even think about that. We've done 2 tips so far, right? EQ2 Maps and the hotbars. All right, let's get into the next one. The next one is going to be your chat windows. So when you first start the game, you're going to have one window over here. It's going to be the main chat window, and it's going to be this tiny little window that's over here, something like this. So the first thing you need to understand is that you can come down here and make this window any size that you want. I like to put mine over here like this, but that's just because it's the layout I use. Now there's already a combat tab set up, which is great. And then there's the main chat, which covers all of your messages of the day and main channel options as well. But I like to set up an additional window over here on the right, which has things like guild chat, group chat, and tells, assuming you're going to be using guild chat and group chat. And the way you do that is like with most other games, you click here on the right click on the main chat window, and you have all of these options, but one of the things you're going to want to do is add new tab, and it will allow you to, if I did that, it would have tab 2. Now once I have tab 2 set up, I can choose to detach it. You simply left click it and drag it out, and now it's its own thing, and then you can put this up and place it wherever you want. Now, above and beyond that, when you get into a chat area, you can go down into the chat options. And again, that's with the right-click contextual menu. And this is when you get into all sorts of fun little things that you can do. You can adjust the font size, as an example, so that the text is much bigger if you have a hard time reading. I think it was set to 15, right? Or 12 or something? Yeah, it was 15. You could change the title of the window. You can adjust the world channels that you're a part of in that particular channel, and you can also set up the various chat texts that are going into that channel. Now, if I were to, cancel this out for a moment and go over to the combat tab as an example and go into that, you notice that the only 2 things going here, well, only one thing's going here, which is combat. General combat, all these. So if I open up the combat window, it's going to have all of these additional things, and then everything can be expanded into all of these other things, which allows you to see all of the items that are going into the combat window. And you can turn on or off anything that you want. You can also do that to any window and move things over to another window. So one of the things I did right off the bat with this chat window as whenever I said I want all group chat, all guild chat, and all private chat going over into this window so that I can see it when it pops up. That's the only thing going into that window other than it says spells. We're going to change that right off the bat. I don't want spells going over into that window. So we're going to click off of that. We're going to come back over into combat. Then we're going to tell all spells to come in here. Now, if I were to cast a spell now, I don't think I have a spell, but yeah, it's not actually a spell. Is this a spell? No, but that's an ability. So it's telling me on the bottom left, this cannot be performed on a friendly target. Now, beyond that, you can also look at the Windows settings, which is how you adjust the opacity of things. So if you don't want if you don't want your window to be to have opacity, you can turn all this stuff on or off. Backdrop on or off, so on and so forth. It's really up to you. You can also choose whether to lock that window in place or to choose click through enabled, which is helpful if you're going to be clicking down here to interact with objects, but you don't want to actually accidentally be clicking on the window. I would go ahead and choose to lock that window and put click through enabled because I don't ever want to move these windows at all. They're going to be locked in place. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Click through enable, locked, good to go. So that is how you set up your chat windows. And again, you can have as many chat windows as you want. You can put them wherever you want. You can drag them wherever you want, resize them however you want. So if you want vertical chat windows versus horizontal chat windows, it's entirely up to you. Hey everyone, Renfail here with the commercial part of the video where I say, hey, if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And thanks to all of our supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, our highest members, our guild champions, Crazy's Relative, Remy D here on YouTube. And don't forget, if you want to support, it's really easy. You can do the memberships below, the Adventurers Guild, 3 different tiers. There's also the super thanks on any uploaded video or YouTube short that you find. There's also, of course, the super chats and stickers that you could do on any live stream or premiere, and the Patreon page if you want to dive into the fantasy world that I have with my brother and my wife, which is a tabletop game, a point-and-click adventure game, and a fantasy book series. All are great ways to keep this channel going and me going full-time. Thanks again for those of you who support. Let's get back to the video that you're watching now. Alright, next up are the options, which might not be readily available. Next up are options, which are complex. There's a ton of them, and you need to know how to set things up so that you can change things like hotkeys, graphic settings, chat bubbles, so on and so forth. There's a couple of ways you can do so. The escape key in this game is famous for not actually doing anything, and you can set it up to open up context menu, but it doesn't do anything when you hit escape right now. So there's a couple of ways to open up the actual options menu. One is you can go over here to the bottom left where you see the EQ2 button, and you can open this up, and you can look for the options. Now, notice that there are a ton of things here. This is the confusion for new players because this game's been out for a while, and all of this information, there is a ton of information here. A lot of this is stuff that you're not going to need to know right out of the gate. But there is one thing you're going to want to do, and that's the options. So you can either click this menu and go to the options, or you can hit Alt-O and it will bring up the options immediately. Now, just as much as the UI is completely customizable in this game, and you can do all sorts of different things with it, there are a ton of options for EverQuest 2, starting with the display options. Then there's controls, sound, so on and so forth. And you're also going to notice that up here in the top right, there's an advanced options. Now what this is going to do is it's going to add a couple of more onto any of the tabs that you see. So I would just urge you to go ahead and click the advanced on so that you can see everything, and then go through here and customize things as you will. Now the display options aren't going to be that important. I would just come in here and pick the performance that's going to work for you. Because I do a lot of recording, I generally use high quality for when I'm recording, but extreme quality works very well. I'm running an older system with a 1080 in it. We can turn on extreme quality right now, but you are going to get a warning that you could get crashes and stuff. But occasionally when you're streaming and running Streamlabs like I am, running it in extreme quality can actually start to cause some issues from here and there. But it's going to depend on the system that you're running. This game was notorious when it came out for not having it had way too many options. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think high quality works great for me, and we go from there. Now, the next thing you want to do is go through here, because you go to the controls, there's all sorts of options, and this might be confusing for people, but you can set things up however you want it to be. One of the first things I would recommend you do is you come into the view options under controls and turn the max camera distance all the way up. So this says maximum distance of third-person camera from the character. So now I can scroll out all the way out here. You'll notice now if I were to, as you adjust that, it's only so far you can go out. I like to have that be all the way out so that I can come out here and look at really far, and then you can also get into it. You can almost get into a top-down view if you like it to be like that. So that's one of the first things I would do. Second thing is some people are going to want to lock it into third person only so that you can never go into first person. I'm one of those people, so I don't ever want to go into first person. So I'm going to lock it so that the closest I can zoom to my character is that right there. I would also recommend for new players to make sure that you have these two options turned on: Combat Auto Face Camera and Combat Auto Face Avatar. That's going to mean that when you enter into combat, your character's automatically going to turn to face your target. And for new players like my wife who never played MMORPGs before and is getting confused with the controllers, that setting is hugely beneficial to making sure that you're always facing your target, so that you're always in combat with that target and not off, running into the distance. So it's a very important thing in my opinion, for new players. Now, from here you can go into the sound options, the voice chat, which this game actually does have really good voice chat, although I think most people are using Discord these days. And then we get into the user interface, which has some things that I think are beneficial. One of the things I like to do is I like to have, you can go in here and tweak the name and chat bubble options. You can tweak these as you want, so that you can look at all the options. There are tons and tons and tons of options in here, so just bear that in mind, because there's a lot of stuff in here, so that you can go through here and customize these as you want. Game features like showing quest rewards before completion, you can turn that on or off. You can disable tutorial tips if you don't want them. I would highly recommend, this one should be on by default, but confirming alternate advancements, we'll get into those later, but it's kind of important. Group options is the other area I would suggest you come, and because the default options are going to be different than what I have set up. If you do end up grouping with people and you are the group leader, change the group default loot method to need before greed. Then where it says default loot item rarity, you can change this. I would suggest setting it to legendary plus. What that means is that anytime an item drops, if it is a legendary item or better, it is going to prompt a need before greed loot option to pop up, where everyone needs to click, oh yeah, I could use that option, or I don't need that option, or I'll greed that option. That way it's automatically rolling on items legendary above. You can set that at whatever tier you want, and then make sure that your default auto split coin is turned on, so that you can automatically split the coin with everyone. And then of course, if you want to switch the alternate models off, you can. I'm using the alternate models because I like them. Not everyone likes them. I don't know why that was turned off. But you can come in and make sure that all these are turned on or off as you will, and go from there. So that's how you do the options in the game and tweak them at your leisure. And the final tip, since we're doing this as a top 5, I guess, would be, along with getting going in any game, this game used to have tiered harvesting, meaning that you could only harvest things that you were leveled up to harvest. So if you were in a zone that was like 20 to 30 and your harvesting skills were only level 1 to 10, you couldn't harvest what you came across. These days you can harvest anything just by clicking on it and starting to harvest. I would highly recommend, and this is going to be, it's going to depend on you and whether or not you are thinking about doing crafting later on in the game. But even if you're not going to do crafting, I would highly recommend that you harvest everything you come across in terms of resources. And the reason for that is because even if you don't do harvesting, unless you're on a brand new TLE server or TLP, and even if you are, you know, those cases might be different. On these older servers, like I'm on the Antonio Vale server, it's a legacy server, which means inflation is rampant on this server because most people are at the cap. Which means Tier 1 resources, T1 resources from these areas are extremely valuable on the market because not a lot of new people are coming into the game. Therefore, these starter areas don't have a huge population of new players who are out here harvesting the resources. So whether you're going to be harvesting for yourself or selling things in the market, I highly recommend that you harvest everything you come across. It is going to fill up your bags, so you will have to worry about bags somewhat soon. We're going to deal with that in a different episode, so don't worry, we're going to set you up through all of these episodes. But if you are going to sell it, that's great. You'll make easy money from selling things on the auction hall. But the secondary thing is that when you get into New Hallis, which is the city that's here at the heart of this Frostfang Sea experience, there's a crafting tutorial series, and we are going to be doing that series with this character and in these guides. And you're going to need resources from all of the different node types. So it definitely behooves you to run around and harvest everything you see as you're getting going in the game. And it's really easy to harvest. You can either just right click and choose chop. You can click left click and it will immediately start doing something, or you can hit the F button and it will do the same thing and go from there. And just every node you see, run across, you're going to get skill ups if appropriate, and you'll eventually clear a node. And then as you see the next one, we'd run over here and be like, oh, look, there's roots. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on the roots, and we're going to gather the roots and go from there. You can also drag that up and out wherever you want to place that progress window. You get 3 successful uses from any node that you come across as an FYI. And then these automatically get placed into your inventory. So if we were to open up my inventory, it's automatically placing them in my sturdy backpack right there, as you see. So yeah, harvest everything, because even if you're not going to use these, you can sell them. But if you're not going to sell them, you can definitely use them because you're going to need them for the tutorial that we're going to be doing later on here in this channel. And look, I just found a rare item, a yarrow, and those sell for more, and they're used for special recipes because you'll need rare items for those special recipes. So that kind of concludes my initial, I guess we've decided we're calling this, I had no idea what I was going to call this when I sat down to record this, but now I do. This is the top 5 tips for new players. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, stick around for the next one. See you then, everybody. Happy gaming.